name's Peter Lloyd from a company called Deckmax. I'm the owner and principal inventor of the system. What we did, we pretty well invented a system where we wanted to make decking better. So as you know, the first thing you see in decking is probably cracks and splits, and probably from poor material, or more importantly, what I'll talk about shortly is about how you dry the wood from log through to finished product. So what Deckmax is we've eliminated nails and screws from the surface. Once you do that, you make the material far more stable. So what we're now talking about is a whole new production specialty, which we've done for about 8 years now. However, we've changed and modified a couple of things. More about our resources and where we get our timber from, because we actually cut from logs, dry it, profile it, skip dress it, profile it, deliver it ready for you. Ironbark and spotted gum are our two specialties now. More about, as I've just noted, hard to get logs. We now have a brilliant resource of forest secure property, some from private property. Ironbark and spotty is going to come in, we do 90 mil. Now, a lot of people will sell you 130, 130, 135, 145 type timber. Aussie hardwoods are quite gnarly. In other words, as they grow, depending on where they are, a riverbank or a dry paddock, the grain is really twisted. So when you cut it into a smaller piece, the material is hygroscopic. So hygroscopic means the material absorbs moisture and expels moisture. So what we know what the animal's going to do. So the reason we don't do the wide board is because the wider the board, only thin, you actually can have cupping, twisting, and certainly bent timber when you open the pack. I think enough of you have been around long enough to know how bent and twisted how bent and twisted hardwood can be. So we know we can stabilize decking at 90 mil by 20 mil. We pre-groove it. In other words, the groove goes into the board and it's also end matched. So the end matching allows you to join between joists. So you don't have to measure every board and cut every board. That's just reduced your waste by 70%. You're going to increase your productivity of installation. And in fairness, you're probably going to have to maybe 1 or 2 jobs in to get used to the system, make a change of how you do the installation. But importantly, you reduce waste and it's going to be faster to install. And guess what? There are no nails and screws. The clip gives you the perfect gap setting. You have a 3 mil or a 5 mil. That's the settings between the boards as you do the installation. I think the most important thing is you may have experienced, say you do a face fix, what we call a face fix with a nail or a screw. Imagine if it breaks. My goodness, one, you've got a hole in the board, then you've got to remove it to replace it. If you break a screw on Deckmax, you simply remove, slide it sideways on the joist and refix it, and there's no damage to the raw material. So what we're trying to explain is we do beautiful quality material. The drying process is critical. We air dry it, we then kiln dry it for quite a long time. And what we want to talk about is the core moisture. Core moisture is the middle of the board. Most people, in fact everyone else, will only dry to surface moisture, meaning around about that 16 ambient percent. Ambient being a national average. So what we do is we leave it in the kiln longer. So what happens is the surface moisture drops fast, the core moisture is very slow. However, once you achieve core moisture stability, or to a percentage that you set, when you take this out and it stabilizes, it's going to be stable. If you put hardwood down and the middle is still green or too high a moisture, it's going to try to finish drying on the job. It's the last thing you want. You want it stable when you lay it, not for it to finish curing after you've installed it. So there's a couple of things we have available to you. Go to our website. We've got some fantastic videos about the installation process. We've got information, importantly, about decks close to ground. A big issue in Australia. And we talk about rising moisture from the ground. And we talk about decks close to ground, how to prevent it. We've got some fantastic basic ideas for you to follow.